You are listening to the Pencil and Paper Podcast Network.
I'm Katrina, and I love anime.
I'm Steven, and I'm aware of anime.
But what if that affection could rub off?
Perhaps that excitement in her eyes got me curious.
I could offer up some solid anime.
I could give them a watch, just to see what all the fuss is about.
And maybe, just maybe,
I could learn to love anime too.
welcome to Inspired by a Weeaboo. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Inspired by a Weeaboo. I am your host Katrina, and with me is my husband Steven.
Well, hello there.
We just finished episode 35 of Fullmetal Alchemist. Steven, what did you think?
This was an unexpected, tragic episode.
Yeah.
That feels like a one-off. They were kind of on their way from where we left them last time, where they were heading. They were looking for the Ishbalans, I think, when they left their sensei. And we kind of start the episode off with lust, envy, and gluttony, kind of sitting around a restaurant discussing greed dying. And as they were getting ready to leave the restaurant, they heard a car crash outside, and Lust goes to investigate, and there's a guy out there, and he shows up, and he's like, hey, I can help. Let me just patch this boy right up who had practically had been stabbed in the chest. Well, no, I guess it was in his stomach.
Yeah, it was more of like a gut wound. Like he had a large slash across his gut.
So this guy shows up and he just whips out a little ring, almost like a little Green Lantern power ring, and just seals up the wound. And he's like, there you go, all done. And everybody's like, oh, wow. But meanwhile, Lust is kind of watching in the background because she knows who this man is. And we come to find out that they know each other. And it was interesting how they kind of did, because it almost felt like it was going to be confusing at first, but I saw how they did it and it kind of worked in his favor. So they kind of went back and forth telling the story of how Lust knows this man, whose name was it Lucian? Something like that?
Something like that.
I can't remember. Lujan, that's it. And while they kind of bounce the story, seeing the flashbacks, but then kind of coming back to the present to where they're going back to the village. And then we also see Ed, Al, and Winry. They were also heading out. But then when we catch up with them as they're discussing what's going on, they hear, or Ed. There we go. I don't know why I'm struggling with names. I always do. Ed hears screams out in the woods. So they hop off their little wagon. And I'm guessing this felt very... Because we've established this was 2003 when this show came out. So this type of trope, and even Ed calls it a cliche.
Yeah.
It's very cliche, the woman being attacked by a gang of rapists. I mean, the way they were coming off, that's kind of my assumption. That was their goal.
They definitely didn't have any type of good intentions whatsoever.
No. They just looked like a bunch of creeps and just like, as they were approaching her, and she's freaking out. But Ed comes in like a badass and just beats the shit out of all of them, starting with a rock to the face to one of them, and then just kicks another dude in the face. And we never actually get to see, like, I thought it would have been good to actually see him beat the hell out of them all, because why wouldn't you? You know, we knew what they were up to. I want to see him beat the hell out of these guys. But Ed or Al and Winry kind of give you the impression, like peeking out from behind a tree, that he's wailing on these guys, and they're just like, oh, Ed. And then they cut away. So that was kind of nice. But the girl, we find out as the flashbacks kind of go on, is important to the story.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of see where Lust and Gluttony were kind of seeing this landslide that had happened. This is part of the flashback.
Mm-hmm.
And they see a girl who's injured, and a rescue crew shows up, and Lujan, the guy that she ran into, is part of that crew. And we kind of learned that there's a sickness in this village nearby.
Mm-hmm.
And they never explain what the sickness is, but we kind of get an idea.
Well, they do say it's an epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
We do learn how the sickness got there, in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
They don't go into detail. Like, it's not any kind of sickness, obviously, that is in the modern world.
Sure.
I mean,
it's almost like I guess it's like it makes their bodies turn to rock or
basically
tree?
It's like excruciating petrification.
Yeah. And they just, I don't know, their skin turns all rocky, and that's how I perceived it. It kind of has this tree look, but it also kind of has this rock look, so I'm not quite sure what the intention was, because they never, again, they don't really specify too much about it. We just kind of see it in passing as it's infecting people.
But it's horrible, regardless.
And it must be, from what I gathered of it, it must be very contagious, because it seemed to spread like wildfire. Because I got a sense, especially toward the end, which we'll get to, it was almost instantaneous when someone was re-exposed to it. So it kind of made me worry about our heroes, because it was like, get out of this fucking area. What are you doing? But anyway, we find out that Lujan has been trying to figure out a way to fix this, and he was going to try alchemy. His first attempt at using alchemy did not go so well, and I'm surprised they didn't, but I guess we didn't really need to see it. We kind of got a gist that it was pretty damn horrible what happened to this kid.
Yeah.
As he was trying, because it looked like it was working, then suddenly it's like it backfired, and then we kind of saw his hand balloon up, and that's when they kind of cut away, so you kind of piece it together in your head what happened to the poor kid. And I honestly thought this was going to be one of those situations where the parents turn and was like, how dare you, I can't believe you did this to my son, but kid's already dead. He just kind of expedited the process.
Yeah.
I know that's terrible to say, but it's true. So Lust is trying to give him a way to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, here's some text, here's things you can read, memorize it, and then we'll work on it. And they were walking out in the forest, and they're getting ready to try it again, or wanting to try this after he's learned everything. And then she hands him a ring, which has a philosopher's stone. And she tells him, hey, this is going to be your key to fixing all this, and we can, this will take care of it. She kills a bird with no problem whatsoever, just a bird flying by.
Yeah, poor little bluebird.
Mm-hmm.
Just
kills it, and then she's like, here's your chance, go for it. And he performs a little chant, uses the ring, and then the bird comes back to life and flies away. And you're like, oh shit, it worked. And he's like, I've got the power now. But then we see the little bird, and then it just drops dead, which seemed like mere moments after the fact. So clearly it's going to be a temporary fix.
Yep.
And that's a shame. So, yeah, we see that Lujan is trying to fix the rest of the town with this new cure, as it were. But we also kind of come back, and in the present day, as they're kind of riding back to the village, Lujan is having discussions with Lust, and you see that there is something more between them than just, hey, I remember you. You're that person who helped me.
Mm-hmm.
Lujan clearly had feelings for Lust.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess they did not part on the best of terms whenever she left, because they never really showed us that either.
Yes.
I mean, well, yeah, I guess they did.
Yeah.
I guess I was thinking like after the fact or whatever.
Oh, no, they don't show him like going out, or anything like that.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, you get that he was sweet on her, and you also, he kind of mentions that the plague has returned to their village, and he's trying to figure that out. But I don't know. He's kind of in this lost puppy dog phase where he's just like, oh, she's back. I can't believe it. Why did you leave? Oh my God. And boy, just downslides from this point, because it got really horrible, because we see everything has gotten better, and Lujan was sweet on this one girl whose name I cannot remember, because I don't remember. Did they mention her name?
Yeah, she tells
Lydia.
Ed and then we hear
Lydia.
him like yell it once.
Okay, so Lydia is the girl that they saved out in the forest, Ed, Al, and Winry.
Mm-hmm.
And they're riding back to the village with her. And meanwhile, so is Lujan and Lust and Gluttony. Is it Gluttony?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. In the flashback, we find out that Lydia is Lujan's fiance, but now he's starting to have feelings for Lust, so he's not sure he wants to marry her. And of course, Lust kind of toys with Lydia at one point, because she's starting to sense there's something there too. But also Lust, there's little glimpses of something where she seems like she has a memory of someone who was caring for her, and it looked like him in a way.
I'm surprised you haven't recognized him.
Well, I wasn't sure, because there were some similarities to the guy, and I thought, is this him? But it didn't look like him, but it did. So I thought maybe there was some connection there, because it seemed like she was equating those memories to him. Mm-hmm. So I thought, well, maybe there's something there. Maybe I haven't quite figured that out yet. So if there's more to it, just let me sit on it, because maybe I'm forgetting a character.
I mean, he is not a character that we have seen a whole lot of scenes of. We've seen him in flashbacks.
Okay.
But two things were dropped in those memories that Lust was having. One of them was the place in which, they resided. Mm-hmm. And the other was the man's appearance, when you actually got to see his face a little more clearly.
Well,
and
clearly
even if you don't recognize the face, it would be more towards the eyes.
Yeah, I wasn't paying attention to his eyes, apparently. But once everything is well and good in the village, then Lujan and Lydia are going to get married. And on her wedding day, Lujan is nowhere to be found, because he's out in the woods with Lust, confessing his love for her and wants to be with her. And Lydia shows up and seems devastated by what she finds and what she hears. And this is where I feel like it didn't quite finish that off, because Lydia runs off, but I'm assuming they still got married, because we see them later together. And I don't know, it's just like she does walk away. Lust does kind of go off, and we learn that this was all part of some grand master plan from all the homunculi, or at least between her and Envy. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they know that the stone is just a temporary fix. It's not going to fix everything, and it's just going to drive him to go search for the real stone. So apparently that was all this was. It's just planting a seed to have someone go find it. So clearly this was before Ed and Al came into the picture, So they needed somebody to go search for it, or they're just,
Well, no, they've had several people searching for it. It's
Okay.
kind of like putting all the pawns on the board and then sending them in different
Fair enough.
areas.
Mm.
The more
Yeah, the more people,
the
someone.
more chances. But Envy does state in that, because this is part of the flashback. Envy states that he is the one that set the plague in the village.
Okay. That's right.
Mhm.
He did say that. So whatever it may be, it's a terrible plague. And I'm curious. So if the ring so if he set it up,
Mm-hmm.
then there was no way they were going to beat it regardless.
Nope.
So, son of a bitch. Anyway, Ed, Al, Winry, and Lydia show back up to the village, and yeah, before that, we see Lujan and Lust getting to the village first,
Mm-hmm.
and he doesn't really say much, but you get it that he's trying to just confess, hey, this could be the start of everything again. We could just be together, whatever his stupid mind was thinking in the moment. And Lust just stabs the motherfucker, just instantaneously. It was like, God damn. So there was like zero cares for him, clearly.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't give a shit. So I guess I'm just kind of like tying up loose ends, I guess, with this village.
Well, I would say it is tying up loose ends, but it also comes back to the fact that he makes her think of the man in her memories.
Gotcha.
So it's kind of like you're a weakness.
Fair enough. So yeah, she stabs him and he falls dead. And that's when Ed, Al, Winry, and Lydia show up. Lydia...
Well, just a little after.
Yeah, just
As
a
soon as he
little while after.
Drops dead, you hear people start screaming.
Mm-hmm. And when Lydia walks into the village, she sees, like, everybody's dead. Mm-hmm. Everybody has been killed by this plague, like, almost instantaneously. It's almost like the moment he died, everybody else fell into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, as soon as that because the stone did crack and just obliterate, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the only thing holding it together, I'm assuming. And once it was gone, everybody died, and she ran in looking for Lujan, and then they ran in after her and found her equally afflicted. And this is where I was like, holy shit. So she found him and just fell dead on him, but everyone has that look of
Mm-hmm.
rock or wood or whatever the shit it is. And I was just like, are you guys not going to get infected?
No.
Because it worried me because, I don't know how this plague spreads.
No, it's just in the village.
So I'm going to assume the reason she kind of reverted back to is because she'd already had it. So
Yes.
It's pretty much like they just suppressed this
Yes.
virus or whatever.
Regardless,
you
they were going to die. The homunculi gave two shits about the village.
Yeah. So they just they threw a Band-Aid on it and said, here you go.
Yeah.
I know it's a...
It was all, like I said, everything's connected.
Tis but a flesh wound.
Yeah.
So, yeah, they... it was rough. And then, obviously, there's nothing more they could do. So they just bail. Well, we don't see them bail, but we last shot was Lust and Gluttony riding off into a carriage away from the town. Mm-hmm. And they don't really give you much beyond that. It's just like, shit is done. That's it. And I said it was rough because, damn, those people were just pawns. And that one guy was a big, huge pawn.
Yep.
And everybody's dead.
And if you think about it, this is literally the homunculi's, like, calling card. They set something up. They set up their dominoes, and then they tip that bitch over and just watch the pieces fall where they're going to fall.
Mm-hmm. And they
because
did.
Even all the way down to Ed and Al, like, everything is because they are seeking the Philosopher's Stone. and they can't make it themselves. So they have to find an alchemist who has that passion and drive to do it.
Mm-hmm. So
And
clearly it
that's
wasn't
why-
that guy.
Yeah, no, that's why the boys, as much as they fight against them, that's why they are the most important people to the homunculi, because so far Ed and Al have proved that they have not only the drive, but the ability, because Edward has seen the other side of the gate, and they're still young enough that they're able to manipulate them to doing what they want.
This is true. So, yeah, it was, like I said, it could feel like a one-off, but it also it's interesting. It was a great, interesting, I guess, look into these characters, the homunculi, because we really don't know a lot about their backstories as of yet.
No,
and I felt like we were getting a lot more understanding of lust in this point. And
we know how they're created.
mm-hmm.
So we know that they were all, at one time, somebody loved somebody enough to try a human transmutation.
Yeah.
And with Lust's flashbacks, that connects a whole nother thing that we've already seen play out. It's all connected.
Okay. So I guess I'll just have to figure out who that guy is. And if I don't,
not only him, but if you look at Lust, like she has, like, I feel like once it clicks, you're going to be like, duh.
It's true. And maybe it will. It's just where we've had sporadic views with this show as of yet. I guess it hasn't, a lot of things haven't quite clicked. Like I had to try and remember where we were from last time.
Yeah, it had been a hot minute since we had watched our last episode.
So, but yeah, I'm interested and intrigued to see where it goes. This, if they'd have played there, because to me there were some elements in this that really played on a horror aspect, like it teetered on it, but they didn't go too deep into it. But it's still horrific.
It is, and it's a small town that nobody probably would give two shits about.
Out in the middle of nowhere, it seemed.
Yeah, which is again like their MO, finding these small towns. Because you think of the mining town. It was a small town. They put their pieces in to have it overrun, and then people were getting sick and shit because of the fumes and all that kind of crap. And it just keeps going. They just keep bringing more and more shit upon these poor innocent people.
Yeah. It's a shame. It's a shame. All right, well, I'm ready to hop back into the next episode if you are.
All right, then lead us out.
Well, everybody, you know you can find us on your favorite podcasting platform, wherever that may be. You can also listen to us on YouTube if you prefer. You can support the show by going to patreon.com/pencil and paper productions. You can follow any and all things that we do over at pencilpaperproductions.com/inspired weeaboo. All links are in the show notes. And that's that.
All right, my little weebs. We will see you next time.
This has been a Pencil and Paper Podcast Network production.